This guy was mistakenly summoned into this world and granted a powerful skill that makes every girl fall for him. The anime began with a 40-year-old guy who was accidentally summoned to another world by a summoning spell. Instead of meeting the summoner, he encountered a goddess named Nolan. She apologized and explained that he had been unintentionally caught up in a summoning meant for someone else. Nolan was furious at the summoner for using the forbidden summoning spell, which is extremely dangerous. She explained that the laws of this world and Earth are vastly different, and the spell risked causing this world to collapse. When she detected the spell being activated, she tried to intervene. Although she couldn't stop it, she managed to redirect him to her location. As for the proper target of the spell, they were safely summoned to the place where the spell was activated, the Holy Sidonia Empire. When the man asked the goddess to send him back if his summoning was a mistake, Nolan admitted she couldn't, since she had already taken measures to prevent the summoning spell from ever being used again. She explained that even if she wanted to send him back, he no longer had a body to return to. She suggested he start a new life in this world instead. With no other options, the man reluctantly agreed and asked if that meant he would be sent to the Holy Sidonia Empire. The goddess shook her head, saying the empire was far too dangerous, especially since he was summoned by accident. If he were discovered there, his treatment would be harsh. Instead, she decided to send him to a different nation, granting him her blessing along with several useful skill to aid him on his journey. When he opened his eyes, he was shocked to see how handsome his new face was. Excited, he checked his status and began experimenting with his magic. While wandering through the forest in search of a village, he found a sturdy piece of wood and used his skill to craft it into a spear. By using his appraisal skill, he is able to identify useful materials in the area and stored them in his infinite storage, a skill he received from the goddess's blessing. Just then, he sees a child running away from the ribbit monster and calls out to him for help. Despite being scared, he manages to defeat the monster with a single slash. His status screen appears, showing that he has been promoted to the warrior job. The child informs him that there is a nearby village, and he asks her to guide him there. As for the monster's corpse, he stores it in his infinite storage, but realizes he has accidentally revealed his blessing skill to the child. Upon reaching the village, the man introduces himself as Takumi to the child's parents, who are deeply grateful for saving their daughter. Takumi then asks if he can stay in the village for a while. They smile and agree, but since the village has no inn, they decide to build him a house. While the villagers gather to help, Takumi attempts to use magic to level the ground. However, the effort leaves him with a headache as he has no mana left. Everyone is shocked to see that he can actually use magic and insists that he rest while they handle the rest. Meanwhile, in the Holy Sidonia Empire, 3 summoned individuals are greeted by a woman named Elizabeth, the first empress of the empire. She explains that they were summoned to this world because she needs their powers as heroes to save it. Just then, Akane, one of the summoned individuals, receives a blessing skill called Revelation from the goddess Nolan. The skill tells her not to trust Elizabeth. The next day, Takumi checks his status and successfully changes his job from warrior to blacksmith. With this new role, he can transform the ore he mines into iron ingots. Excited by his progress, he spends the entire day working on it. When the child visits him, she is shocked to find him completely drained of energy. Later, her mother gives him a mana potion and scolds him for overworking himself. As time passes, Takumi becomes skilled in blacksmithing, reaching level 40 in the job. However, he feels dissatisfied because his true ambition is to become an alchemist, not a blacksmith. One day, he asks the child's father if he has any potions he can spare. The father agrees to give him some on the condition that Takumi sells some of the potions he makes back to him. Takumi gladly accepts the deal. After crafting the potions, Takumi notices something unusual. The color of his potion is different from normal ones. Later, he eats a poisonous plant and then uses Cure Purification spell on himself, believing this method will help him quickly build resistance and improve his purification magic level. Just then, a level 25 boar suddenly appears and spots him. As the boar charges toward him, Takumi grabs his spear and tries to stab it, but the spear breaks. He then tried to use his magic to attack, but it has no effect. Terrified and unsure of what to do, he notices a level 19 wound spider nearby. When the boar charges at him again, the spider unexpectedly leaps onto the boar's face, protecting Takumi. Takumi is unsure of what's happening. As he thinks there is no way to the boar, he suddenly has an idea. By using his alchemy skill, Decompose, he manages to take down the boar. Grateful for the spider's help, he approaches it and thanks it for protecting him before using his skill to heal it. To his surprise, his status screen suddenly pops up, showing that he has unlocked the Tame skill. Shocked but excited, Takumi decides to make the spider his pet and names it Maple. This Maple evolves and regrows its missing legs. Back in the village, everyone is astonished that Takumi managed to defeat the boar on his own and even tamed a spider, an incredible feat since insect monsters are thought to be untamable. The villagers then celebrate with a feast, enjoying the boar's meat together. During this, Takumi asks the villagers about the nearest big city, and they tell him it's Bolton. While they feel the village has become brighter thanks to him, they are saddened by the thought of his departure. Still, they understand he isn't the type to remain in a small village forever. Meanwhile, the goddess Nolan observes Takumi's every move. Another goddess then approaches her, curious about her plans for Takumi. She points out that Nolan not only granted him a special body and her blessing, but also sent him 1 full year into the past, before the Holy Sidonia Empire activated their summoning spell. Nolan smiles and saying there's no particular meaning to it. The next day, Takumi wakes up, surprised to find himself wrapped in spider silk by Maple. He realizes it's because he hasn't spent time playing with her, as he's been too focused on making potions. Feeling guilty, Takumi apologizes and promises to play with her, which makes Maple happy. Just then, Martha walks in and misunderstands the situation. After Takumi explains everything, Martha examines the spider silk and smiles mischievously. Later, Maple and Martha work together and they manage to make a cloth out of silk. When Takumi reminds Maple about spending time with him, Maple ignores him, saying she is busy right now. Takumi has been wanting to head to the city and study alchemy there. However, he finds it hard to break the news to the villagers. Afterward, he got custom armor made by the blacksmith and learned that both the blacksmith and Banga already knew about his plan to move to the city, Bolton. They had even arranged for him to ride on a carriage, as it just so happened that a trader from Bolton is coming to the village next week. Takumi is touched by this and thanks them. As he walks back home, he meets Martha and asks what she's carrying. She explains that it's the innards of a horned rabbit her husband hunted, and she plans to throw them away since the meat needs to be properly processed to remove diseases and parasites, something she can't do here. Takumi tells her there's no need to throw it away and uses his purification skill on it, making it safe to eat. This surprises Martha. Noticing that he can use light magic, Martha warns him not to use it in front of just anyone, as only a few people can use light magic. It's rare enough that those with enough skill can make a living from it. Before the trader arrives, Takumi spends his days improving the village, building a wall around it to make it as safe as possible. When the trader, named Papek, arrives, he is surprised by how developed the village is. Banga then introduces Takumi to him. As they talk, Takumi suddenly gives Banga a healing potion, mentioning that he had 100 of them delivered to Banga's house in case anything goes wrong. Papek, noticing the potion, immediately becomes interested and starts examining it. Just then, the villagers gather to say goodbye to him and give him a coat as a gift. Takumi feels grateful and thanks them for everything they've done for him. Seeing this, a man named Heath is deeply moved and begins to cry before introducing himself to Takumi. The person next to him is named Ryle, and the man next to Takumi is Bogar. It turns out that the three of them are part of a rank sea adventuring party called Lionfang. They were hired to be bodyguards for Papek. Takumi then introduces his spider, Maple, to them. They are surprised and find it fascinating. Ryle grins creepily and tries to touch Maple, only to get knocked out by her instead. Maple then crawls onto Bogar and seems to like him, which makes Ryle jealous. Just then, Papek asks Takumi if he's willing to sell his healing potions to him. Takumi agrees, saying he doesn't mind. As they continue talking, a group of goblins suddenly appears, blocking the road. Ryle, Heath, and Bogar then step out of the carriage and swiftly eliminate all the goblins. After arriving at the city of Bolton, Takumi immediately headed for the Adventurers Guild to register both himself and Maple, his pet. As part of the process to stay in the city, Takumi wanted to register with an Alchemist's Guild. However, since there isn't one in this city, he had to register with the Adventurers Guild to use the guild card as their identification. The guild receptionist explained to him that if he stayed at the lowest rank, his registration wouldn't expire as long as he accepted a simple quest once a month. Later, at the Papek company, Takumi is shocked when Papek offers him a huge sum of money to purchase his potions. Although Takumi suspects that Papek might have an ulterior motive, he doesn't seem like the type to deceive others. While Takumi is deep in thought, Papek asks about his current residence. He suggests that if Takumi plans to establish himself as a producer, it would be wise to live in a home with a workshop. Takumi quickly responds that such a place would be too expensive and that he doesn't have much money at the moment. Hearing this, Papek proposes another solution and asks one of his men to show Takumi some places he can rent instead. Little did he know, the man was actually recommending a large mansion for rent. Takumi initially thought he couldn't afford it and asked the man to show him another place. However, when he learned the rental price, he was surprised to find it cheap. With the money he had earned from selling his potions earlier, he realized he could afford the rent. Relieved, Takumi decided to take it. As they walked around the city, Takumi asked the man about the unpleasant smell in the air. The man explained that it was the smell of sewage. Nobles use magical purifying devices to treat the sewage in their mansions, but since these devices must be excavated from dungeons or ancient ruins, they are too expensive for use in the city's sewers. Instead, the city hires priests to purify the sewage periodically. The next day, Takumi and Maple moved into their new home, and the first thing he did was spend the rest of the day building his own toilet. Just then, he heard a scream nearby, and when he rushed to check, he was shocked to see Papek wrapped in spider silk by Maple. Maple told Takumi that she had done this to entertain him, and surprisingly, it was true. Papek was actually enjoying it. After apologizing to Papek, the man suddenly mentioned needing to use the restroom. When he went in, he was taken aback and immediately asked what it was. Takumi explained that it was a toilet, and he had attached a magical device to it. Takumi then explained how the toilet worked. After finishing their business, the device used purification to break down waste into clean water and a small amount of inorganic material. Hearing the word purification, Papek asked Takumi if he could use light magic. Takumi suddenly remembered Martha's warning not to show his light magic to just anyone. He regretted his decision and asked Papek to keep it a secret, which Papek agreed to. Papek then pointed to the toilet and asked Takumi to make 100 more. Feeling the pressure, Takumi agreed. Papek then looked around and suggested that Takumi should get a slave to serve as his protection and manage the mansion. He then added that with a slave serving him, he wouldn't have to worry about them betraying him and leaking information about how he is able to use light magic. Papek explained that in this world, if you have an aptitude for light magic, it means you're chosen by God, so the church won't leave you alone and will try to profit from exploiting their healing magic. Papek couldn't imagine the church ignoring purification magic like the one used in this toilet. Takumi then grew worried and asked, "Is it even okay to produce all these toilets and sell them?" Papek reassured him, saying there was no need to worry, as he would make sure no one knew Takumi was the one making them. Takumi felt a little calmer, but was still uneasy, especially since he was opposed to using slaves. Just then, he received a message from the guild reminding him that he needed to complete a quest within the month. With no other choice, Takumi reluctantly decided to go along with Papek's idea. Afterward, they headed to the slave traders' company to buy a slave. There, Papek introduced Mulan to Takumi, the owner of the trading company. At first, Takumi was hesitant about contracting a slave. However, Mulan explained that in this kingdom, slaves' rights are protected by law. Owners are required to provide food, clothing, and shelter, and both parties are forbidden from causing life-threatening harm to one another. Additionally, forcing the slave to perform tasks not outlined in the contract is strictly prohibited, and slaves are not allowed to share information about their owner with others. Hearing this reassured Takumi, as it was very different from the harsh conditions he had imagined for slaves. Mulan went on to explain the common types of contracts. Those who become slaves due to debt form contracts that last until their debts are repaid. Prisoners of war may accept contracts as a way to secure shelter and stability. Criminals can enter contracts as part of their reform and to earn a livelihood. There are also contracts involving individuals captured by thieves or bandits who had illegally forced them into slavery. Since Takumi wanted to keep his information private, Papek informed Mulan that they preferred war slaves, as they could not be freed without their master's permission. Curious, Mulan asked Takumi about his plans for the slaves. Takumi explained that he needed one slave to manage his mansion and handle all the housework, and another to serve as his protector. Later, Mulan introduced a slave named Maria to Takumi. She had been kidnapped by bandits at a young age, leaving her without any family. Despite her tragic past, Maria had become a skilled slave, proficient in reading, writing, and general housekeeping. Takumi was amazed and wondered why someone as talented and charming as Maria was still available. This made Maria blush, and she quickly reminded Takumi that she could only handle general housekeeping tasks and wasn't capable of anything else, such as sleeping with him. Takumi immediately reassured her that it was perfectly fine. Mulan then addressed Takumi's request for a slave to serve as his protector, explaining that they currently didn't have anyone available. Hearing this, Maria mentioned Sophia as a potential candidate. However, Mulan dismissed her suggestion, instructed Maria to return to her room and prepare her belongings. Once Maria left, Mulan admitted to Takumi that Sophia could indeed serve as his protector, but revealed that she had certain issues. Intrigued, Takumi, guided by his intuition skill, insisted on meeting Sophia. With no other options, Mulan brought Takumi to meet Sophia and introduced her to him. It turned out she was an elf and was captured during the war between the Kingdom of Triaria and the Kingdom of Yugur, which is a nation of elves roughly 50 years ago. Despite her long captivity, she had not formed a contract with anyone. This was partly due to a large scar on her left ear and impaired movement in her right hand and left leg. Sophia also had her elemental and sprite magic, unique to elves, sealed away, likely due to a curse. Takumi then asked Mulan to speak with Sophia, which Mulan agreed to, leaving Sophia shocked. Once they were alone, Takumi approached Sophia and tried to look at her status. He was surprised to discover how strong she was. Takumi thought that if he could heal the impairments in her limbs and break the curse, she could be of great use to him. Realizing this, Takumi immediately told Mulan that he wanted to form a contract with Sophia. Sophia, shocked by this, told Takumi she couldn't fight. However, Takumi reassured her that he had a way to dispel the curse, which stunned both Mulan and Sophia. Mulan then laughed and happily entrusted Sophia to him. Later, Maria thanked Takumi for contracting Sophia along with her. Then, Mulan cast a magic spell on Takumi, Sophia, and Maria as proof of the contract. Watching how Takumi treated both Maria and Sophia, Mulan felt pleased that they had found a good master. Afterward, when Takumi took Maria and Sophia to his mansion, they were surprised to find that he had a spider as a pet. Takumi then led them to their room, which left them in disbelief. Normally, slaves didn't have their own rooms, and this one was far too luxurious for them. Takumi reassured them not to worry, explaining that there were plenty of rooms in the mansion. While taking a bath, Maria felt grateful that Takumi was such a kind person. She admired how he even managed to get Mulan to acknowledge him, as Mulan would never let Sophia go, no matter how much money was offered. However, Sophia had a different view. She found Takumi suspicious after catching a glimpse of their contract and noticing that most of Takumi's entries were blank, even his birthplace and lineage. Later, Maria was shocked to find that Takumi had already prepared dinner for them, which made her feel useless. Feeling bad for her, Takumi reassured her that she could handle it tomorrow, and for now, they should just enjoy the meal together. Sophia was confused, as sitting down to eat with Takumi was considered rude in their position. Takumi then smiled and said it would make him happy if they did. He then asked them to stop calling him Master and instead address him by his name. Though both Takumi and Maria hesitated, they agreed to his request. The next day, Takumi went to meet Papek to collect an item he had ordered. On his way back, he stopped by the church to pray to Nolan, thanking her for all her blessings. As he prayed, Takumi wondered why Nolan had badmouthed Cydonia, considering he had heard that the Holy Empire of Cydonia controlled the religion in this country. Just then, Nolan appeared in front of him and explained that her opposition was because she was not part of Sidonia's church. She explained that there were two religions in the world, the Church of Creation and the Church of Divine Light. The Church of Creation had worshipped her from the beginning, while the Church of Divine Light was created later, along with its god who did not exist. After its founding, the Holy Empire of Cydonia had used force to rapidly spread the influence of the Church of Divine Light, opposing the Church of Creation. However, since Nolan didn't involve herself in the petty affairs of humanity, Cydonia was able to activate their other-worlder summoning spell, which accidentally brought Takumi into their world, even though he was never meant to be summoned. Before Nolan left, she warned Takumi that while the blessing she gave him would last forever, as he expanded in this world, the part of the blessing that helped him grow and meet kind people would start to unravel. This could lead to him encountering individuals with ill intentions who might try to harm him. Takumi then realized that the reason he had only met kind people so far was thanks to her blessing. From this point on, it would be up to him to shape how events unfolded. When Takumi returned home, he tripped and fell to the ground. Sophie then quickly approached him and noticed the item he had ordered, wrapped in magical paper. Before she could ask what was inside, Takumi quickly stored it in his item box. Later, Sophie sneaked into the workshop and saw Takumi repeatedly dipping a knife into a potion and cutting himself, only to heal the wound immediately afterward. He kept doing this while muttering that what Maria did was cruel. Worried, Sophie rushed in and asked what he was planning to do to Maria before suddenly collapsing unconscious. Takumi checked her condition and found that she was severely exhausted and had a wound on her left hand. He attempted to heal her, but struggled due to her curse. After much effort, he finally managed to heal her and then received a notification that his light magic had leveled up. Afterward, Takumi took Sophie back to her room and learned from Maria that sudden movement or excitement would leave Sophie extremely tired, likely due to the curse. Takumi then activated his new healing skill, Extra Heal, successfully healing her and dispelling the curse. Sometime later, when Sophie woke up, she immediately noticed how much lighter her body felt. Maria then happily hugged her and explained how Takumi had completely cured her and dispelled her curse. At night, Sophie approached Takumi to thank him for curing her. Takumi noticed she seemed confused, so he took the time to explain everything to her. Apparently, in order to dispel the curse, he had needed one more level in his light magic skill. To achieve this, he bought highly poisonous herbs from Papek and extracted the poison from it. He then repeatedly applied the poison to his own wounds and used his healing skill to heal himself, which was the most efficient way to level up his light magic. As for what he had said about Maria being cruel, Takumi explained that it was because she had mistaken some of his medicinal herbs for trash and discarded them. After clearing up all the misunderstandings, Sophie couldn't help but tear up. She was deeply moved by how much Takumi had done for her and swore her loyalty to him in return. At the Holy Empire of Cydonia, Homer and Packard began feeling more positive about the Empire thanks to Elizabeth's influence and were training hard. Meanwhile, Akane tried to avoid training as much as possible because she didn't want to become a pawn in Elizabeth's plans. The next day, Maria tells Takumi she saw everything last night, including Sophia vowing to protect him like a knight, swearing loyalty to a princess. This leaves Takumi feeling embarrassed. Later, as they prepare to package the toilets, Takumi announces that he'll take a break from mass-producing toilets. He wants to go on a journey to search for materials and explore some ruins. He plans to bring Sophia and Maple along, while Maria stays at the mansion since it might be too dangerous for her. Hearing this, Maria bursts into tears and begs Takumi to let her come too. Feeling guilty, Takumi agrees. When he checks Maria's status, only to be shocked to discover that she's much stronger than she appears. After that, Takumi spends the next few days focusing on crafting weapons for everyone. Since Maria is a battle maid, he imagines short knives would suit her well. Meanwhile, Sophia trains Maria diligently, helping her grow even stronger. Next, Takumi decides to create armor for them. However, he's unsure of their measurements and feels too embarrassed to ask. Instead, he uses his appraisal skill to create life-size dolls of them as references. Several days later, the armor and weapons are completed, and both Maria and Sophia seem to love them. Takumi then gives each of them a mana-infused ring, designed to enhance their magic power. Afterward, Takumi takes Sophia and Maria to the Adventurers Guild to register them as adventurers, and both are assigned an H rank. While Takumi searches for an easy quest to complete, a group of D-rank adventurers suddenly approaches him. They suggest that Sophia and Maria should join them instead of staying with someone as weak as Takumi. Stepping forward, Takumi blocks them from getting any closer to Sophia and Maria. Despite being scared, he is determined to protect them. He firmly tells the adventurers that they don't look very strong to him. This angers the group, and one of the adventurers tries to attack Takumi. However, Takumi activates his skill, transforming his body into diamond, blocking the attack, which ends up breaking the adventurer's arm. Seeing this, the group of adventurers grows angry as the fight seems ready to erupt. The guildmaster arrives just in time to stop them and asks what's going on. Luckily, the guild receptionist, who witnessed the entire situation, steps in to explain. Afterward, the guildmaster asks Takumi and his party to speak with him privately. Once there, they ask Takumi how he was able to use his skill to turn into diamond. Takumi explains that, at the time, he simply took some charcoal from his item box, synthesized it into diamond, and coated his upper body with it. Hearing this, the guildmaster is impressed and decides to promote Takumi to rank D by offering him a selection of quests designed to help him and his party rank up more quickly. The guildmaster believes that gaining higher ranks will discourage others from messing with them, and Takumi agrees. On the quest, Takumi and his party easily defeat the goblins. However, Takumi notices that there are far more goblins than expected. They've already killed enough to complete the quest 3 times over. Sophia explains that the large number of goblins is likely due to a medium-sized encampment nearby, which might be led by a goblin general, a rank C monster. Normally, exterminating an encampment with a goblin general requires at least 5 rank D or higher parties. However, Sophia believes they are now strong enough to handle it on their own. Takumi is hesitant to take on such a risky task, but before he can say anything, Sophia and Marians are already eager and ready to go. Just then, Maple suddenly informs Takumi that she's about to evolve. Acting quickly, Takumi opens his pocket dimension and lets her go inside to rest. He worries that with Maple temporarily gone, it will just be the 3 of them, making it even harder to take on an encampment led by a goblin general. However, to his surprise, the 3 of them easily manage to exterminate the entire encampment and its goblins. When it comes to the goblin general, Takumi initially struggles in the fight, but he eventually uses his fire magic to burn the monster alive, killing it. Later, at the Adventurers Guild, the guildmaster is amazed that they not only completed all the quests given to them in half a day, but also managed to eliminate the entire goblin encampment on their own. The guild receptionist then informs them that Takumi has been promoted to rank E, while both Sophia and Maria have been promoted to rank F. As they talk, Maple suddenly emerges from Takumi's pocket dimension, revealing her new form, shocking everyone. Overjoyed with her transformation, Maple is thrilled that she can now communicate with everyone. The next day, Maria approaches Takumi and asks if he has any scraps of cloth, explaining that she wants to make underwear for herself and Sophia. She then sketches out the design she has in mind, surprising Takumi because it looks quite different from what he had imagined. Curious, he sketches his own idea of what the underwear should look like. When Maria sees his drawing, she gets embarrassed but still insists that she wants him to make it for her. Later that day, Papek visits Takumi and informs him that the Lord of Bolton wishes to meet him. The reason Papek explains is that the Lord is impressed by the toilets Takumi created. He also mentions that this is the same Lord he had previously told Takumi about, the one capable of preventing interference from the Holy Empire of Sidonia. At the Lord's castle, the Lord expresses his gratitude for Takumi's work, explaining that the improved sanitation in the city has significantly reduced the risk of disease outbreaks. However, he warns Takumi not to let his guard down, especially once the Holy Empire of Sidonia begins taking an interest in him. After returning home, Takumi spends the next 3 days making underwear for Sophia and Maria, and they absolutely love it. Playfully, they tease him by saying they'll put them on right away if it would make him happy. Embarrassed, Takumi quickly retreats to his room. If you come this far, please consider liking and subscribing for more videos like this. Thank